Welcome back. This is Brent Lane, and I got guys, introduce yourselves.
This is Chris
I'm
Marcano.
Rob Romano. We're talking over each other.
We're off to a great start. Rob Romano is obviously here, folks, and Chris Marcano, and we have two amazing guests today, Mary Anderson and Jeremy Hausbrouck. Let's just kick off, and I'm going to say I'll be an old-fashioned type of gentleman and say ladies first, but for those who don't know Mary, and I really don't think that there are many who probably haven't heard her name in some capacity, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Mary Anderson, and I have been the education program manager for the Florida Swimming Pool Association for the past 5 years. Just celebrated my 5th year anniversary. So I manage continuing education for the association, and then I also handle all specialty programs. And then some big projects that we're working on, which one is the apprenticeship program, and then another one that we're working in conjunction with some of the local colleges in Florida. So to try to develop a program. Quite a history in the industry. I grew up in the industry. My dad started building pools in '58, so I've always been somehow involved in the swimming pool industry. So, but thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Looking forward to our discussion.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much. Jeremy, tell us about yourself.
Well, first of all, my name is Jeremy Hasbrouck. So we'll start with that. I am the owner of Hasbrouck Pool and Spa. I'm the owner of Hasbrouck, haspools.com. And I am the founder of the Hasbrouck Group, which is a business management company where what I do is I help small businesses with development, employee relations, and project management. So I help other pool companies develop sometimes larger projects they have a hard time doing on their own. I'm also the chairman of workforce development for Penn Jersey Pool and Spa Association. I'm co-chair for NESPA's workforce development program. And I am the secretary for Penn Jersey Pool and Spa Association. And I don't know what else I could do.
Yeah, quite. I was going to say it's an impressive resume times two.
Yeah. Well, welcome, guys. I didn't really set up the show. The episode 3, what we're really talking about is kind of retaining and recruiting to the swimming pool trade, and the conversation just it's a big one in our industry right now, looking for people and what's going on, and it seems like the trades for decades, maybe even centuries, have gone generationally. It goes from, family members or, close-knit groups, and they teach the trade on up. And, that's kind of been the way, but skills learned and taught and used, and it's a way of life. But I think we've all seen that we're getting away from that to some extent. Everybody wants to go to college. That's the big thing. And the trades are getting left behind. And it's interesting because we've got 2 people on here that are working to get people into the trades and apprenticeships and some other conversations we'll talk about throughout the show with other people doing some of the same hard work. But yeah, so I think the first part, maybe everybody just impart what they know and have experienced out there, and or their thoughts on what's happened to the trades or why the stigma, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think really there's so many ways to kind of splice this issue, this challenge up, but the bottom line is that this has been an ongoing issue for many organizations and many industries, and specifically with ours. I've been in for the pool and spa business for 21 years. We all paid our dues in this industry, and we've seen it unfold, but it's always been a challenge. I think it continues to be a challenge, especially when you consider and you look outside of the you really back it up and look out from a 30,000 view. It's not a swimming pool and spa industry issue. I think it's more of a societal issue. I mean, when was the last time that it was okay for a guidance counselor in high school to say, hey, don't go to college? That's okay. That's just not what's being told or not what's being said. And that's where these kids are not being pushed. So, we've got a lot of work to do, but I think this is a great group that we have on this call today to kind of talk about what is potentially able to be done about this this challenge, and really what is being done currently. And that's another thing. I just think it's invaluable to let the industry and the folks that tune into this know what's actually out there. And that's why I'm really pleased with both of the guests today, just to kind of enlighten us. So why don't we just start at that point to get the conversation going? What are we doing as far as recruitment? You know, how are we getting the next generation of workforce excited and motivated and committed to this industry?
One thing that I want to point out is the Florida Swimming Pool Association has been really involved within the state of Florida with the Future Builders of America. So we participate in sponsoring their camp because of what we found. And interestingly enough, I found it out through going through a Skills USA leadership and skills competition. So I had my nice booth set up and I was really excited to talk about the industry, and I realized that students were just kind of glancing and walking by. And it dawned on me that they really didn't know what our industry was about. You know, I think for most of them, what I was hearing that, you know, I'd say, well, who do you think puts in your swimming pool? Who is that person? You know, and they're like, well, the guy who builds my house. You know, like they were so unaware that there's this whole industry out there that they could actually be involved in. Now, these are kids that their aptitude is towards the trades. So if you're familiar with skills, they do building competitions, masonry, plumbing, electrical. So there's kids that have a propensity towards the trades, but they were unaware of this real segment of the trades. And so if you're talking with them and through FBA, we've gotten super involved and just trying to, you know, make them aware and introduce them to this industry. And I found it fascinating that they just didn't know.
That is fascinating. I mean, if you think about it, there's no more of a targeted demographic, it sounds like, than that group of kids. Mm-hmm. You've got a group of the proper age and the proper, you know, aptitude and interest, and there was still a disconnect, it sounds like. Do you think, Mary, it was more of a, you know, a lack of identity within our industry or a personality to our industry?
I think so. I think that there's just no real separation. It's the construction industry or the service industry or you know, the maintenance person comes to my house, and I don't think there's any distinguishing characteristic of the industry that points out that, hey, this is really a separate career path. This is something totally new and different. You know, it was trying to piece together for them that if they were interested in, let's say, construction, that our industry in particular encompasses all those skills, you know, carpentry, masonry, electrical, plumbing, and puts it all together, not unlike a general contractor, but definitely very specific to our trade. But also instructors. There is no guidance for instructors how to talk about our industry. Some do it very well, but very few introduce it to their students. If there's even happens to be trade education within their school, because, you know, that's kind of gone away in our high schools.
Yeah, we had a tech school here in Connecticut, or in Stamford, Connecticut, that they closed and recently reopened. You know, my stepson, he's in college age now, and he wants to get into plumbing. I wish he'd get into the pool side of things, but, you know, we'll take what we can get at this point. Yeah. But he's currently apprenticing with a plumber. He's 19 years old, and he absolutely loves it. He's got a brother and a sister that have graduated college. One's a police officer. The other one's sitting behind a desk in some corporate office somewhere. And this kid, he's like, no, I want to open my hands. You know, and he's the exception to the rule, where all his friends are going to school. They're all going to college, getting educated, because their parents that are owners of the companies are looking to educate them out of the business. But meanwhile, you know, they've been able to build their businesses up, make the money. They'll get to a nice house, probably a pool in the backyard, have a boat, especially over here. You know, we're a seasonal area in Connecticut and in New Jersey. Grab a boat and be able to go back and forth to Long Island or out to Montauk or something like that. So there's, success in our business, but somehow we've, society has created a stigma with working with your hands and being a tradesman. And hearing what you're saying, and that there's nobody telling these kids how to, what really is out there. What are your options? And heck, what better business to be in the pool business, because you will get to touch every trade, like you said, masonry, electrical, plumbing, every water, drawing, planning, design. There's a lot of cool things about being in the swimming pool industry. One of the best things one of the best satisfaction I got was walking up a property and seeing it go from this plain grass field to a beautiful picture afterwards.
Yeah. On that note, Rob, I mean, it's amazing if you think about it, like the opportunities that are there, if you're looking at it from a pure opportunity standpoint. But another neat aspect of it, if you think about it, and this is something that should be really told to the folks, to this next generation, is these jobs can't be outsourced. These are crucial to a big industry. I mean, if you want these types of recreational bodies of water in your backyard and in your communities, these are absolutely necessary and necessities to facilitate this whole experience of pool enjoyment, ownership, and operation. So it's not only crucial, they can't be outsourced, it's extremely satisfying. You're building stuff with your hands and creating really neat objects. It's not like you're just making a retaining wall. You're building and crafting potentially a beautiful body of water. Hey, Jeremy, so Mary brought up some of the proactive things that she's done. Could you kind of tell us, because I want to spend some time on this, like you're doing a whole different level of proactiveness when it comes out to engaging and starting to try to create some advocacy or acting as an advocate really, and create other advocates for this industry. What are some of the things that you're out there spearheading?
So I want to thank Mary for bringing that up. We've got a lot of there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and I think with this whole COVID thing going on right now, my approach has completely changed. It's completely changed. Our industry is getting so much recognition right now as being one of the ones that are open. We are open and running. I know, we've been really concerned about, our funds and how we were going to move forward with all our shows. And, but I know as an industry, because I speak to everyone across the country and across the world, really, that the pool industry is blowing up. And it's really helping. It's helping getting the word out about our industry. It is sad. We've been left behind in a lot of areas. I think it falls down to probably 50 years ago when the lobbyists started getting involved with the unions and promoting their industries and just basically leaving us behind. And nobody knows we're here. How can you get a carpenter when there's a carpenter's union? How can you get a mason when there's a masonry union? And nobody wants us to know we're here because we're basically stealing their employees, and it's a shame that that's the way it is. And unions are great. I'm not going to put them down. They're needed in a lot of professions. I don't even want to talk about that subject. It's just something that's the reality. It's the reality of the work pool. However, in all this, I spent a lot of time reclassifying the pool industry. In March, when this started, we were classified as unessential in Pennsylvania, and I spent a lot of time with Governor Wolf and our state representatives the first 24 hours classifying us as a sanitation, and that made us essential. And we were able to, within like 48 hours, we were able to keep running and moving as a sanitation company, industry really, not company. But some of the projects I'm working on, which have kind of taken a step back a little bit with the schools being closed, we're running programs where we're actually going into elementary schools and talking to kids about the fun and exciting world of pool building. And we're running design competitions for 5th and 6th graders, 4th and 5th and 6th graders. Basically, depending on what school we get into and what kids they put us in front of, we get to basically do our sales pitch about the industry and get them excited. We bring some plugs, we bring some cover tools, things that they can play with that are, non-aggressive. We're not bringing saws in or anything like that, but we skim our baskets on the tables and fill them with stuff to play with. And then each table's got like 10 kids at it, and we dump them out, and the kids get to play with stuff. And, they're spinning all the cover stuff out, the cover anchors and plaster trowels, things like that. And they love it. And then we do design competitions, and then we awarded one family Flyers tickets, and the board took the whole family to the Flyers game. We met the family, took pictures with them, and as a stepping stone, I really want to jump that into a national competition. Is really what I want to see that go to. And but lately, I've had to move on from that a little bit because the schools are shut down. So the teachers, they've been coming at me looking for videos. So I'm asking the pool industry, everybody I talk to, while you're out in the field, while you're, with Rob, while he's plastering a pool, let's get a video. I need a video to show kids. Make it fun, make it exciting, make it short. We'll edit it into a presentation that I can sell to schools. I can give it to them. They're looking for time. They're looking for something to put in front of the kid's face on their computer that they can say, here's a presentation from the pool industry about how great and fun it is. And they can have like a clip of 10 different pool companies doing their trade. And that's what I'm working on now. So anyone that's watching this, get a hold of me, put a video together. We'll edit it and we'll add it to, what we're going to start sending out there to these schools.
That's a great idea, Jeremy. I mean, if you think about it, just kind of getting a collective industry created or content at least contributed from across the, from coast to coast, north to south, like to make almost like a promotional, flashy video, because everything's going to be spatial now. Everybody needs to see it. Don't tell me it, show me it, But I think that's fantastic.
It's a great idea.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think it's something
I have videos
done.
I could absolutely share with you. There's no commentating on it, but I take videos because I've put presentations together on how to prep a swimming pool because some people need help on that, But I did get a little creative where I took my GoPro and put it at the end of a chipping hammer, and you get the bird's eye view of that. I'm happy to share that with you. Little things like that. If you're looking for something with commentary, look, we all have the gift of gab. I'm be happy to do that as well. Now, Jeremy, I have a question for you. The school initiative that you're doing, is that you personally doing that? Is your chapter involved with that? Because that to me seems like a really great chapter program, especially for us that are under the NESPA umbrella. And then PHTA and Florida Swimming Pool Association, you have a bunch of different chapters. That sounds like a fantastic idea for a chapter initiative to take over, or to take on, I should say.
So initially, when we started this, it was just me and my wife doing it. We feel a need, and then I got involved in Penn, Jersey, and then I had the backing of the title, basically chairman of workforce development, and then it kind of took on a life of its own. Schools started contacting us. There's schools popping up all over. This past year, I know we're all, we all get real geared up about how schools aren't pushing for tech, but they started to. And there's actual schools that are popping up called STEM schools. Mm-hmm. All it is technical training. It may not be like carpentry, like we're used to tech schools, but they're hands-on schools, high school level. And the whole entire school is based on that. And that's the only school these kids go to. And they're called STEM schools. I've got my foot in the door about 4 of them right now. And it's amazing. And as soon as I get these programs, I'm basically setting a template for them that we can share with the industry. I'm going to share it with NESPA, and we can actually run these programs across the country. I actually am involved in Project Green School, which is I'm on the advisory board for that. The initial stages, this whole thing kind of shut everything down. I was elected to the advisory committee for that right when this whole thing happened. But what that is they have schools, almost 7,000 schools across the world that we develop projects for the kids to do in school. If it's making the pool greener, switching the pool from chlorine to, or a chlorine hydrocarbon pool to a salt system with ozone and rainwater entrapment on the roof. We will develop those projects. The kids get to select what they want to do, and then we go out and find funding and grants for them to do it. And then they get to walk at graduation with sashes, and they get scholarships, and these projects are running. They've been doing this for years now, and Robin's been really great. She's the president of Project Green School, and it's real big in Mass, and it's some really good programs with building greenhouses and things like that. They don't have anybody doing the pools, so they brought me in to start developing projects for the swimming pools at the schools. And once we get back on track with this whole thing, that's going to be something I'm aggressively going after, putting projects together. And like you said, there's 7,000 schools, with like 3 in South Africa, that they're involved in. So, but across the United States, like just the East Coast, there's like 2,500 schools across the East Coast that we can get involved in. And I think it's those little footholds that, as an industry, if we get involved in that, it's going to take the next step for us.
Oh, for sure. That's a lot of touches. I mean, you're talking about throwing out a net that's never really even been contemplated within this industry when you're looking at going out and the contacts and information that can be shared through that network. That's amazing.
And I think there's a lot of stories like Jeremy's where there are individuals who have gone into a school, initially maybe their children's school. We have a member who brings his heavy equipment to school during, it's like dirt day or something, and they and tells the kids what he does with it, and they look forward to it every year. But little by little, he's able to spread the word about the industry, And I think when Jeremy brought up STEM education, that's what our industry is. I mean, it's more than building a pool. I mean, look how we've changed in technology, even just in the past 5 years, with remote monitoring, and there's so many different options in our industry to get involved in. And I think there's a lot of young people who are missing out on some great opportunities. Our industry in a lot of ways is aging out, and we need to start getting people into, well, that includes me too. We need to get people in, that young people excited. And it sounds like that's exactly what Jeremy's doing. It's like getting young people excited about the things that, individuals in our industry are doing now. And, what better way than getting into the schools? And I know that most schools, or especially early on, have some type of career exploration. Mm-hmm. And that's where we need to be at, starting at a young age.
What I like to tell the kids is, it's hard to sometimes capture when you got 4th graders sitting in front of you. But I usually start what I say. I said, what's your favorite thing to do in the summertime? What is your favorite thing to do? Swimming, water slides, water parks. That's like everyone's standard answer.
Yeah.
I said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And nobody ever says pool. No one ever talks about swimming pools. Why? Why wouldn't you want to do the thing you love as a kid?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to do it? Because they're being bred out of it. Nobody wants to go to the dentist. Why do people want to be a dentist? Nobody wants to go to the doctor. Why do people want to be a doctor? Why would you want to do something you don't like?
It's funny you say it, Jeremy. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to make a point that before I came to the association, I worked as an enrollment officer in college. And this is something for parents to think about. I would have students sitting in my office near tears because they didn't want to go to college. They wanted to go to the technical school across town because they wanted to weld or do construction or do masonry, but they're afraid to tell their parents that they didn't want to go to college. And I think because what they hear a lot is, well, that's not academics. It's all academics. It's math, it's science, it's reading, calculations. And I think parents have to start reframing how they talk to their kids about careers. It's not just a job, it's a career. And I think we have to think about that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go on. Culturally, everything's a competition anymore. And that's that's what it seems to be. And college is the only way. You got to get there for the competition. But it's interesting because one thing at our conference this year, I talked to a very successful plasterer. You know, his whole family's involved, and he really started, he and his wife, next thing you know, he's got a cruise, and then he got his builder's license, and he's really built an empire. So I'm sitting there with him one evening and just fraternizing, and you know, I asked, so what are your kids going to get into business? And it's like I offended him. I couldn't believe his reaction. It was just, no way, my kids are going to become doctors or lawyers. This statement. And so I kind of explored it with him, and I just didn't get anywhere. And I just found it astonishing that someone that came from nothing, started from nothing, built an empire, has his whole family, his brothers, you know, nephews, everybody involved in the business, and very successful, that it's not good enough for his own kids. And I think that's part of the problem.
Oh, for sure.
I think there's something, you know, as the son of a guy that built his own business. You know, my grandfather was a builder. He built additions on people's houses, things like that. My father then, they went to build a pool, and then my dad came home with a franchise, and he learned how to build a swimming pool from that, and built very successful pool company. And you know, go back to boats and big backyards, pools, whatever. He was able to accomplish all of that. The difference is he did bring me and my brother into the business, and here I am. I'm still going strong today, 35 years later. I may be the exception to the rule at this point, but I think that the amount of hard work, you can say what you want to say about one's father, but the amount of hard work that goes into building a business is a lot. It's very, very hard work. Going to school, if you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, you're putting tons of hours into books and education and learning, you know, and then you got to practice your profession there too. So the amount of hard work is still there. It's just what, you know, unfortunately with our work, there's a stigma attached to that versus physical labor, and which becomes not necessarily academic labor, but you're putting hours into billing, you're putting hours into business plans, you're putting hours into sitting in an office. You know, the guy that graduates by the time he's 50 years old into the office and comes out in the field, he has, you know, he's really think about it, right? Yeah. You know how many guys? Dave, my boss is one of them. Dave Cook. He didn't come out of the field until he was 50 years old. He started working in the office. To his credit, he did pick up on electronics, what have you. But I'm going off. I think that what I'm trying to say is you have to put hard work into anything that you do. And if working with your hands, we can identify the kids that want to work with their hands, this is definitely a great place to do it. A great venue.
Yeah. One of the notes I made when we were kind of preliminarily chatting about this is just as a concept idea to discuss on this is the question is what does a good job look like? You know, it's what does that entail? And if we could give a short answer to that from our perspective and pitch that to this next generation, you know, and I think we would be in a much better position. Because it's all a perception. What does a good job look like? You know, is it just money? Is it a distinct career path where it's very linear and you just work hard and go up, up, up? You know, is it a straight line? Is it a windy road? Is it a choose your own adventure book? So there's a lot that goes into that. But man, I'm really impressed just kind of already with the proactive, you know, points that we've made and are making to get out there and touch some of this next generation. You know, I mean, this next group of kids coming up, and my son's 10, you know, these Zoomers, I think they're gonna be a generation of a committed workforce. You know, I mean, everything they're kind of lining up, that's kind of a blowback, not to be, you know, stereotypical here, but there's some traits of millennials, there were some traits of Gen Xers and baby boomers, and every generation had its own kind of interests and, you know, different points of interest and different certain trends that did apply. So this next generation, so basically college age down right now, these Zoomers are going to be, I think, a motivated workforce. You know, how do we capture that for the salvation and well-being of our industry? You know, I mean, that's really what we're up against. And a lot of that starts with what's a good job look like in the pool and spa industry.
So you know what a good job looks like?
Lay it on.
That right there.
Right behind them. Behind them.
Smile on that 17-year-old kid's face. That kid's 17 years old. He loves his job. He's putting in-floor cleaning heads in a lazy river right now. He loves that job. He's been with me since he's my son, but he's been working in the pool since he was 9 years old, cleaning pools,
Right.
and he loves it. And he tells all his friends about it. Just the other day, we had one of his friends work with us. My oldest son, he's going to be 21 in November. He's been working with us since he was 9 years old, and they love it, you know. And loving what you do, it's just like we all know. If you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life.
Right.
And that's what I try to, you know, I stress that to the kids when I talk to them. If you love what you do, if you love swimming pools, why wouldn't you want to do swimming pools? It never goes away. I mean, your parents would love to have a swimming pool in their backyard, you know? And why wouldn't you want to be the person to build it? You know, why wouldn't, you know, like, it's almost like, I think this next year is going to be a total swing for us. It's going to be a total swing. You're going to see a lot of pool companies popping up. I was talking to a bank. I was talking to a bank to be unnamed right now, but they're having a hard time giving out loans to companies that weren't open during the pandemic. If you weren't able to stay open during the pandemic and you got shut down, you're gonna have a hard time getting a loan. This could happen again. Pool companies, banks are trying to throw money at me. You know, we're profitable. We were open. Those are all things that are going to change. People see us working. Over the next 10 years, they know that what we did during the pandemic, we were working. We had employees working nonstop during this. And I think that's going to, I mean, it sucks that we have to use that as a springboard, but I'm absolutely going to use it, you know, to our advantage as an industry. That, you know, we were here, we were open, you know, we were delivering chemicals, we were sanitizing pools, and we were taking care of families, you know, giving them something to do when they had nothing else to do, when they were stuck at home. And that's just, I mean, we're blowing up. You know, we're sold out for next year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're totally sold out, and everybody is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
Well,
so
that's another thing to consider, you know, Jeremy, to your point, we saw this bubble just emerge from COVID. Like, there was the uncertainty. We had to fight like hell. And, you know, we had great folks within the industry that stepped up, like the efforts that you put out there, Jeremy, what Rudy Stankovich has done, like what Dominic at NESPA has done. There's too many not, you know, to mention now, but there's been so many, you know, advocates of our industry that stepped up and established ourselves as essential and really got us past that. And it was completely the right thing to do. And it was completely warranted. We went and got past that. And now this industry has just blown up. I mean, we're talking to builders. Everybody's booked until 2022 for the most part. I mean, so we're going to see a 3 to 5 year wave that this is a tipping point in some regards to where, you know, we're going to have new pool ownership at a record level. When things do go back open, those backyards aren't going anywhere. I mean, there's going to create this strangely through crisis opportunity that we've kind of had dropped on us as an industry is going to create a backlog of talent too. You know, I mean, we're stretched thin as it is. How do we fill these roles that are going to come from this success? So to your point, you know, if we're not thinking about this now, we're borrowing trouble. We are really, as an industry, borrowing trouble, because we are going to need good people to do quality work for the next 3 to 5 years at a record level.
And I think early on, you know, when Florida started experiencing our lockdown and the closings of business, our government relations manager, Dallas, he worked county by county to make sure that we were on the essential list, that the industry in Florida, that they continued to work. And I think what we've seen come out of that, of course, is acknowledgement of how essential we are in a lot of ways, not just as the builders, the distributors, the manufacturers, the service people, but as an industry as a whole, how important we are to the state of Florida. And that, you know, we were able to keep working. Like everybody's saying, we've been able to keep working, and we've also experiencing the same situations that we have members that are so busy they're no longer able to go out and sell pools because they can't get in the ground what they have. They can't take any more maintenance jobs. They can't take any more remodeling jobs. They're working as fast as they can, and also hiring people to work for them. So, people who've been out of work, they've been able to gain, employment through the industry. So as essential companies, I think that's been really great for our industry.
Well, Mary, it sounds like then the stuff that you're working on, apprenticeships to trade, working with your builders to get them and getting people that are interested, good education and professionalism into the industry, that you're going to be pretty busy here really quickly. How, if you could share with us, share us the vision and what you guys are doing and what you see coming.
So I think that the whole idea of an apprenticeship stemmed from us constantly, well, maybe not constantly, but regularly discussing at board meetings, how do we develop our workforce? How do we, we really need to think about succession planning and who's coming in after us to do the work. And our president, David Pruitt, was at I think it was a Builders Association meeting, but they started talking about apprenticeships, which a lot of them use electricity, electrical, plumbing. And he said, we really need to look into this. And so I started looking and did some research and found out that although we were listed kind of under janitorial services in the Florida Department of Labor, or actually the National Department of Labor, swimming pools didn't have their own apprenticeship. So, they're like, well, how do we develop that? And I'm like, well, let me look into it. So I contacted someone from the regional office, and they did their research, and they said, there's nothing that's been developed. And we kind of jumped on that and got a committee together and outlined the work process. We outlined the associated education that goes along with it, the instruction, and submitted our paperwork. And in January of this year, we were officially registered as a sponsored apprenticeship program, which is, for our industry, I think it's huge. One of the things that I always say when I'm talking about this is that for the first time ever, you can go through an apprenticeship program, and it's called the Swimming Pool Service Technician Apprenticeship. So it covers not only maintenance, but repair, remodeling, replacement. That when they finish this program, and it's 4,000 hours, when they finish it, they actually earn the designation as a swimming pool service technician journeyman. We've never had that designation before. And this is a portable recognition, and that it's nationally recognized and it's internationally recognized. So I think that's huge for our industry that we have this. And I think that it's...
Now, Florida has licensing. Florida
Yes.
has
Yes.
a formal. Is that for builders only, or is that the service including that?
Currently, right now, what we're doing is focusing on one area, and that's servicing, which covers, in Florida, the servicing license covers repair, remodel, and maintenance, anything up to new construction. So it's kind of a broad area, and we felt this was a good start to do servicing first. And once we get this established and figure the ins and outs, that possibly in the future go into maybe develop a construction apprenticeship. But for now, and the goal is not to create license holders. The goal is to create knowledgeable, skilled craftsmen. I don't want to call them craftsmen or tradesmen. That it's a valued position. It kind of elevates
It raises the bar.
Yeah, yeah. So we have the goal is, they give you a goal of having one apprentice in the first year, and I think we'll far exceed that. And I've been conducting some workshops for employers to kind of really, it's a 2-year commitment, not only from the employer, but from the apprentice. And they sign contracts, so they're kind of melded together. The employee says, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to come to work every day. I'm going to have a good work ethic. I'm going to, take my instruction seriously. And the employer, is that, of course, it's a paid position. I'm going to pay you. I'm going to allow you to get this associated instruction, this education. And then I'm also going to teach you the trade on the job. So I'm going to make sure that you're learning from skilled people, from not only maybe themselves or from someone who has attained that level in their company, that they're instructing them on the job and teaching them hands-on how to do the work. I think that's really the appealing part, is the on the job. And I think it gives a highly structured training program to employers that maybe don't know how to put one together. And I think the combination of on the job and the book learning, the instructional part, is a great combination we put together. I'm really proud of the program.
Yeah.
Very proud.
That's robust.
Yeah.
I
was going to share, I talked to David Haas last evening. Wasn't even aware of their program that they're putting together in California.
Yes.
So California actually just, and this was a feat because we're talking about California. Here, of course.
Right. Right.
But they are creating and getting ready to launch an apprenticeship program. For the service industry, very similar to work that direction. He did share, and this is where it comes back to the NPC, right? We're the plaster industry and masons and stuff like that. One thing, and I don't know, Mary, if you can speak to it, obviously California with unions, and nothing wrong with unions, but, and some things Chris said earlier kind of holds back, or maybe it was Jeremy, holds us back a little because they want those laborers, right? So they're not really getting into that part of apprenticeships, at least not yet. They want to get this off the ground and get that going before getting to those, because they don't want to raise that flag that we're messing with labor.
Right.
Which is crazy. That's the government, that the government would be involved and maybe hold back a great thing because they want their piece of it. But,
yeah.
But just to mention again that, that California is right on the cusp too. I know I had a great conversation with David. He's very animated and energetic about what they're doing out there. He's got a great group of people around him doing it too. And they're very close and they're pretty excited. So I'm sure we'll be seeing that be launched here very soon. So for very similar, Mary, it sounds like you're very familiar with it.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it kind of helps us kind of answer that question: where do we get our workforce from, and how do we train them? And I think, and I was talking to Brent about, historically, my background is adult and career education. And so I did a lot of research into the history of trades and apprenticeships. That's how, we've kind of, as most trades, we have learned from our fathers, from their fathers, from their, and it's, you worked on the job, and it's, I think it's an honored tradition to pass on a skill that way. But we're kind of beyond that now. I think that, we can encompass more than, just the hands-on, that it's also the book. It's also, reaching out to one pool pro, reaching out to another and teaching them. And I think that's, how we're going to develop that workforce that we need so desperately.
Well, these programs give it professionalism. I think that's the point. And that's what we need to market, promote, and sell with these programs, is that there's a professionalism with our industry. It's not a handed down thing, or just a handed down thing.
Right.
There's certifications, and there's a lot of technology, and there's a lot of things that you have to learn.
Yeah, it
Well,
really
and-
validates everything, and it
Yeah.
helps answer that question of what does a good job look like? Well, it sounds a lot more like a real good job.
And I think with the added licensing aspect of it, and Connecticut's got one. New Jersey's just they just passed licensing in New Jersey, right, Jeremy? And then Long Island, in particular, Long Island's part of New York. They run off of counties, whatever. But the Long Island is Suffolk and Nassau County. They have a version of licenses. Licensing out in Las Vegas. Licensing is kind of Massachusetts is looking into licensing. So it gives strength and validity to the profession, because a lot of times if you compare it to, everyone knows that an electrician needs a license and how many years they go through trying to get each level, and the same thing with the plumbers. Pool licensing may be a little more streamlined, but carry just as much weight nonetheless. So I think if we get licensing, I'm not trying to say every state's got to get a license. I know there's a lot of people that don't like licensing. They get scared when they hear that. But to Mary's point, it does raise the bar. It sets a minimum standard for what we do in the industry, and it says, you know what, people are qualified and have gone through a certain amount of hands-on experience and classroom experience that's required to get that license. So you have an educated person that's on the job, in the field, doing that work.
Yeah, and I think, Rob, too, is one thing that, and I hear this from individuals in the industry. Well, if I train them and teach them, they'll move on and start their own company. And
Right.
Big concern.
There are some people that work for a little while, then to move on and open their own company, and maybe they're not that good at it. But I think that what most employers fail to realize is that, it makes an employee feel valued to spend a little money and time on their education. And a valued employee is a happy employee.
Oh, for sure.
So, makes a big difference, because you go, wow, my boss really appreciates me, and they must think that I'm worthy of, going to this training or taking these classes. So most employees stick around when they realize they're being valued and educated and trained.
No, Mary, you're right. I mean, that's unfortunately a legitimate, I will say, a legitimate phenomenon within the industry, but is it a chicken or an egg thing? I mean, I think time will tell you that there's an old way of running a business, and now there's kind of a smarter, more, there's a return on the investment in people. There is. I mean, at the bottom line, when it's done genuinely and it's done correctly, I think that 9 out of 10 times, not an economist here, but I'm passionate about this. 9 out of 10 times, if you invest in good people with the right resources, that's just gonna benefit everybody.
That is what it comes down to. You don't quit your job, you quit your boss in a lot of aspects.
Yes.
And, if you have an environment, if you built a company with a positive, uplifting, as you guys say, invest in your employees type environment, you're going to have some great retention, loyal employees, and wonderful results. Look at Jeremy's kid back there. I wish I was smiling at 17 years old in the pool. Although we did have our fun.
We all went down memory lane with that picture.
Well, and the other thing that to discuss too is, the other part of this, the ones that invest in these people that they spend time and money and energy into, as somebody said earlier, aging out. And then I saw a lot of faces, which people might not see if they're only listening, but. It's an exit plan potentially, right? You have somebody that either sell your business to, which is important, or maybe even a partnership out, something.
Yeah.
But that's important, because it is honestly an aging industry, and we're not getting a lot of people into the new, right? Unless it's family. It's one of the reasons we don't have enough people to build pools and service pools and do all that right now. So, just some great work going on.
I don't know. I think Jeremy's son gives me hope.
Yeah.
There is a lot of hope out there, and I'll tie it back to to my stepson, who great kid, great athlete, loves his video games. And when he got this job as a plumber, and I've seen, and this is only this summer, but I see how excited this kid is to wake up in the morning, go to work, and he goes. I brought him to a friend's house, and we're in the basement, and he is following all the pipes that are going through the basement, and he's been doing this for a month. And the excitement and pride that he's already calling himself a plumber. I mean, he's already decided that's what he's going to do, and he's going to make $1 million a year doing it. And he's like, great, off you go. So he may be in what we perceive as the minority. I think that it's just being with, finding these kids, telling them it's okay. It does go with the parents, saying, look, guys, if you want to do it, go for it. Just go all the way with it. And I think it does start with us. And we're encouraging them. We're right behind them. My wife is also she runs the Connecticut Spa and Pool Association. She's not a tradesman or woman in that respect, but she gets it. She sees what we need. And having Troy come out and do that for the aces in her book. It starts up top, or comes from up top.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, the bottom line is that, there needs to be, we need to pave a path and make this path look as enticing as possible to this next generation. And, just to kind of wrap things up on a positive, because I really feel that vibe right now after this conversation. It looks like we've really cleared way for this path already. One of the things I think that we need to do as an industry is collectively come together, coast to coast, north to south, through the organizations, through the motivated people, and really kind of pool our resources and check in with one another and build and create synergies off of what's out there. Because it's not a state issue, it's an industry issue. It's not an organization issue, it's everything. It's the North American pool and spa industry that really is at risk here, or in need of quality folks. So I'm encouraged after listening to this. I'm actually really inspired to see what, the committed efforts of Jeremy and Mary and many others as well have already started to do. I think it's our obligation to take these things that we have in place and really run with them, and take it to that next level. Because to Jeremy's point, this post-COVID world is going to be a whole new place. And believe it or not, our industry is going to be turned on its ear in a good way. We are going to explode and we're going to be busy. So having said all of that, I'm going to throw this back to our esteemed leader, Brent, to kind of wrap up this last and latest episode. Is there anything you'd like to say, Brent?
No, again, just outstanding conversation, some great information for our industry to take. We're going to be putting up the links to these folks.
Yes.
Tied to the cast, so you can find those. You can link to Jeremy and to FSPA with Mary and others. And I think it was a smooth finish. How about we just say that? And don't forget to visit us on mpconline.org and nationalplastercouncil.com. Everybody, thank you so much for your time today. It was great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
to see y'all.
Jeremy, Mary, great job.
Thanks so much.